right. Thank you guys so much for coming back to listen to another episode. I'm here with a super special guest, Shawn Stuckey. Hi, Shawn.
Hi Danielle, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am well. I am well. How is married life treating you?
It's been great. I love being married and
Hmm.
yeah,
I
it's
see
been
that
wonderful.
smile. Yeah, it's giving them all.
Yeah, we didn't live together before we got married. So just like getting to live together has been really, really fun. I'm not tired of it yet.
Well, good. I thought it would be like challenging, but it's good. It's fun. So,
Yeah, I mean, every relationship has challenges, but we did a lot of work before we got married. A
mhm.
lot of counseling before we got married. So now I feel like we just get to enjoy because we sorted a lot of things before we got married.
And that's the way I want to do it too. So, kudos to y'all.
Thank you. So I wanted to invite you on the podcast because, hmm, obviously you're out, you're gay, and I mean, in high school, we went to high school together. I think to me, I don't know if it's a thing that everybody knew, but I could tell. So I wanted to talk to you about it because Brianna, your sister, has been on the podcast before. She talked about growing up in a religious household. And I was just curious from your perspective what that was like.
Right,
Because was it your grandpa who's a pastor?
right. He was, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're here to talk about all of those things growing up
Yeah.
black and super religious and gay, and how you reconcile all of those things today.
Okay,
So,
let's do it.
okay, so what was it like for you growing up in church?
Honestly, when I think about it, I remember only the good things, and I don't know why. Like my sister would be like, "You don't remember some of the stuff we went?" I'm like, "No, like I remember only like the good things, like running around the sanctuary when no one was there, when we were like getting ready for service, or the smell of like fried chicken and pound cake when we were like a special service with food." So like I really only remember like good things as it relates to church and like the lessons that it taught me and how it carried over into my adulthood. I would say also like, of course, in church, there were topics that were, or there were lessons, I guess, that were pertaining to homosexuality and how, I mean, he was very blunt in saying that, it was not right, like it wasn't of God, like it wasn't a godly principle. So dealing with that all the while knowing that, I'm also gay. And at the time he didn't know. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It was very conflicting inside, I would say. So, I mean, like outside of that, I think that my overall church experience was positive. So nothing like very traumatic in my opinion, or at least into my recollection. Like I may be forgetting something, but in my recollection, I had a very positive church experience growing up.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that it wasn't super traumatic or terrible for you.
Right, right. I know it's
That's
not everybody's story, but
mhm,
it wasn't that bad for me, even in,
great.
a pastor's grandkid role.
Yeah. So when did you start to realize you were attracted to other boys or men? And did you fight it at first?
Absolutely. So I think my earliest memory, honestly, I was in daycare. I had to be like 5 or below. I was very young. I remember we were like, they had built a house, me and the other kids, we built a house out of blocks and we put like a roof over it and like a little, I guess like a tarp over it and everything. I remember being in that house with another boy and we were kissing under the tarp, under the house. I'm in like 5. So I know
At
it's going,
5? Oh my god.
I was young, Danielle. Like I was young, like young enough where like my parents were working. So they put us in daycare, while they were working. So I remember kissing. I remember we were kissing, and the kids were like, "Oh, oh my gosh!" Like like they were shocked and appalled. And the next thing I know, one of the workers comes over, and she's like, "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" So like I get to sit down like next to her. She's calling my mom and telling her like I got in a lot of trouble. I remember going home and getting in trouble too. Like so it was just that's my earliest memory, and ever since then, like I've always been attracted to men. So, I mean, there are obviously, well, there are beautiful women in the world. And I'm like, wow, she's beautiful. But yeah, as far as I can remember, I've always been attracted to men, like always. So,
Yeah. So did your family in like middle school or high school, were they ever like, so are there any girls that you like? Are there any girls you're taking to the prom or anything like that?
absolutely. Like, at this point, I mean, my sister, we're kind of close in age. So my sister was dating guys or, like that they knew of, she would bring some home and me never have brought anyone home. They're like, okay, so, who are you talking to? Are you dating? I'm like, oh, I'm not interested in anyone, I'm not really looking for that. And all the while I'm like, first of all, it was already hard. Like in high school, I wasn't out, like no one, I mean, people knew, but I wasn't going to say it. And I also wasn't expressing like interest in anyone at that time either. So I think what I remember the most, my grandma would be like, yeah, when you get married and have kids. And every time she said it, I would cringe on the inside. I'm like, that's not it. Like, I want the marriage, I want the kids, but I don't know about the wife. So, I mean, it was difficult. And I would say, I don't even think my sister knows it, but I was kind of jealous. Like, she's able to bring home all these guys, she's able to go on dates, and she's able to, walk around, hold hands, and I wasn't able to. In part because honestly, I wasn't comfortable and I didn't feel safe at that time. I didn't know what that would look like for me and whenever we were in school. Because I mean, I think now it's a little bit more liberal, but at the time, I just didn't feel like it would be safe for me, and so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think around the time we were in high school, we graduated in 2014. That was right when people were starting to switch and be more conscious. But I feel like when we were in high school, every group of people was being blatantly made fun of and
Yes,
disrespected to their face. Like people were not politically correct at all.
there were still like the jocks and the cheerleaders and the nerds and the
Mhm.
in-betweeners, so
Yeah,
it wasn't as conglomerate as it is now.
definitely.
Even
So
though
when
Hillsborough
did you?
back to school, it was progressive.
Yeah, yeah, and it was still bad for some people.
Yeah.
So when did you get to the point where you weren't trying to hide it, at least with your friends, maybe not with your family?
So it started for me in college. So I went to Hampton University for 3 semesters, and then I ended up transferring to VCU. I remember, well, I made a group of friends in Hampton. They're still my good friends to this day. But we would always be together, and I gravitated when I was in gospel choir. There was these guys in there, and like they were gay too, so we just naturally gravitated toward each other. Like we became really good friends. And I remember we were in the cafeteria one time, and I think one of the people in choir came up to us. He was like, I used to every time I heard this question, my stomach would drop because I knew what was gonna follow. They were like, "Can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Oh, here you go." I was like, "I'm probably gonna lie, so yeah, let me just get ready for that." So he was like, he asked the group at the table. They were like, "Are y'all gay?" And me and the other boy, we were like, "No," automatically. And then the other boy, he was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Oh, okay," And then that was really the end of it. So the friend, he looks at us, he's like, "Why did y'all just lie like that?" And we basically looked at each other. We were like, well, for me, it was just like habit. Like it was something to protect myself. I felt like I didn't feel like if you find out now I'm gay, then you're gonna tell everybody, and now I might get made fun of, or I might put myself in some type of negative situation. So when he said that, I was like, why did I say no? When I'm in college for the first time, I'm on my own, like I'm able to really find myself, build my own name. And I was like, why did I do that? And from then I really started questioning, like, there was no point in me doing that. I'm in a setting where I'm free to be me, number one, and number two, I shouldn't have to worry about feeling safe or feeling insecure in any way. And that was really how it started for me. And that's really kind of like it just brought me out of my shell. I just felt more comfortable. So that's where it started.
Huh. So you were in gospel choir. That's so interesting. We'll have to circle back to that. I definitely have questions about that.
Oh God.
Okay. So when did you pledge your fraternity?
So I pledged my fraternity, which is Alpha Phi Alpha,
Mhm.
in 2018, which was my senior year at VCU.
Okay. So what was that like? Were you out at the time that you were pledging?
at this point in my life, I was living my life. Like I was having a great time. Like people knew who Stuckey was. Like I would walk around, I was dressed up, I used to sashay, do my little walk. Like people knew who I was. So at that time, I was very much so saying it, doing it. I was doing all of that. So it was very well known. And if people asked me, I said it. I was like, yeah.
Mhm. Was there any awkwardness or any homophobia in that environment? Because I feel like black fraternities in particular are like, I don't know about white fraternities, so I can only speak on the black ones, but I feel like they're super masculine, like super bro energy.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
So it was, well, I think outside of me agreeing with, the mission statement of the fraternity and what they stood for, I had never really had male friends, like, or, I didn't, Black women to me were always my safe space. And that's from elementary to high school to college. Like I just gravitated towards Black women. They like me, so I've always been close with Black women. So I realized, like, I was like, I really don't. I've thought about. I was like, if I have a wedding, I'm not gonna have any men up there standing next to me, and that really bothered me for some reason. So outside of me agreeing with like the fraternity and aligning with their values, I was like, I just wanted male friends or like male compatriots. So me being in a setting of like going to events and things, I didn't really know. I don't think I knew any of the people there. So it was awkward for me because I was still very much so trying to be masculine or putting on like a masculine presenting, you know, I guess disguise or whatever. And I can be masculine and you don't really have to, yeah, but I just felt like I was overdoing it, if that makes sense. And it felt disingenuous. And I was like wondering why. And it was like, because based on my past experiences when I was in, middle school or high school, and they used to call me the F word because I always want to be with the girls, or, I never really wanted to be with them. So it was important to me to, I guess, find that in the fraternity as well. But I did have my experiences that were awkward with who would become my line brothers. I remember one time we were in my apartment and we were just talking about stuff that was going on. And one of my line brothers was like, I have to ask you a question. And you know, already know that when I hear that, I'm like, I already know what's coming. I know what's coming. So he's like, I just gotta know, like, are you gay or what's up? Like, and this is like the most macho one on the line. So I said, yeah, I am. And he was like, okay, like, and that was pretty much the end of it. And everybody was kind of like, like, yeah, we accept that, we're cool with it. And then it made me emotional because and it was like, this is kind of like a really big bonding experience for us because I cried in that moment because I was like, this is supposed to be a space where you guys accept me, like you guys aren't questioning me. Like I just felt like it felt like he was trying to uncover something or like kind of out me in a way. And he was like, no, like it's all good. Like, and we really had to talk about it. And now to this day, like we're close. Like this is the same brother that now sends me guys, like, you think he's cute, like, stuff like that. And he asked about my dating life and stuff. So initially it was hard. It was hard on my part too, because I just didn't feel safe around Black men. I never have. So I think that's been the biggest blessing out of me joining a Black fraternity.
That's great. That makes me wonder. I've had a few people on the podcast who we went to high school with who talked about being bullied for all variety of things. And I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention or what, but like I don't remember ever consciously seeing anybody. That's not true. Like the I guess like the real, I don't want to call them weird people, but that's kind of what they were viewed as. Like the
Mhm.
goth emo people. I remember seeing them get made fun of.
Right.
But people like you, like I don't ever remember seeing that. Were there people like coming for you in high school?
In high school, yeah, I remember an instance. One time I was on the bus. It's the same guy that I went to. Well, we went through middle school together as well. I remember we got on the bus one time, and all the cool kids, they sat in the back. It was an activity bus, so they all sat in the back. Some of my friends are back there, the girls. I was just like, I don't want to be around those guys in particular because I know how they are. So I kind of sat like in the middle. And one of my friends was like, "Why are you sitting in the middle? Come back with us." And I was like, and before I could even say anything, he was like, I don't want that F word sitting back here. He's an F. I was like, okay, I'm used to it at this point. So that's why I didn't sit back there. So, I mean, if it happened, it wasn't like often,
Mm.
but it happened, you know? So,
Yeah, that's awful. I'm
and
so
it's
sorry that
like
that
that.
happened to you.
Yeah, it was like that, I think, all throughout grade school, you know?
Yeah.
So it was damaging in the way I viewed Black men and hypermasculinity and stuff like that. So
Mhm. It's so interesting you say that. I was asking Shaheem this when he was on the podcast, and he gave a different answer than I expected. But I was thinking about a lot of Black gay men. I feel like, particularly celebrities, are not married to or dating other Black men. And I wonder if that's like a subconscious aversion to Black men because most people are bullied within their own race.
right.
And I wonder if that constant bullying, sometimes even like physical abuse from other Black men, makes them averse to their own people, if that makes sense.
I could see that being a thing because it's deep. Like literally, I think at that time I didn't have a single Black guy friend. Well, in high school I did make some guy friends and they were cool, but it just makes you feel unwanted, like you're like I don't want to say a freak, but it's like it just make you feel like you're the scum of the earth. So why would I want to I don't want to cohabitate with somebody who brings back trauma.
Yeah. So when did you come out to your family?
The first person I came out to was my sister, and we were on a cruise in like 20 I think 2016. And we were just sitting down and I think we were talking about dating life. It was late. We was at like a burger joint, like eating food, chilling. And we were just talking, and I think we were talking about dating life. And I was like, well, it just kind of, I just did it. I was like, I'm gay, right? And she was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, so it's like, like, I'm assuming everyone knows. She was like, well, at least I knew, like, I've always known. So I was like, okay, like, but her knowing or me saying it to her, it felt kind of like a relief, but it also gave me like anxiety because like once I start now, it's like but at the same time, I didn't want to. I start to feel uncomfortable with lying to not to myself. I think at this time I was kind of getting into who I was as a person, but I just felt uncomfortable in the fact that I'm sharing myself with others freely, like my friends, like people that I'm growing to love, and but I can't do that with my family. So it started to make me feel uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. So that was the first one. But then once it got, further down the line, everyone's just like we know, like we're okay with it, like we still love you. So starting with my sister was definitely the best, and it was kind of trickled everything else.
Okay, great. So nobody was mad or, unaccepting.
Now there are two people who are the closest to me who I have not said it to because I would say amongst everyone, they're the most religious.
Mhm.
Um, and I know when I do that, when I do say it to them, they're gonna I just feel like in a way they'll be disappointed. And even if that's subconscious or if they outwardly do it, I just feel like it's that my biggest fear is that they will reject me in a way, which I don't think that it will happen. But I know they'll be like, well, we still love you, but such and such.
Mhm.
Like we'll still love you. And it will be, I feel like it will be disappointment. So that's something that even to this day I'm still working on, you know, especially to the
Yes.
people that are closest, like the ones that are very close with. So that's something I still have to conquer.
Yeah, definitely. So would you feel comfortable like bringing a man home to your family?
The crazy part is I literally always told my best friend, I was like, when I come out to like those, I'm just gonna bring my man with me. And I'm like, boom, like here it is. And he was like, I don't think that would be a good idea. So I think if I started to get serious in dating someone, I would have to do it before I brought them home, because I don't think they would act a fool or anything, but I just feel like it would be the right thing to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so what has life been like for you since coming out? Are you dating a whole lot? Were you scared to start dating?
Since coming out, dating is I started dating, yes, but it has its challenges for sure. I think there's like a whole different there's a culture within the gay community that is sometimes hard to escape. Like, serious dating is kind of hard to find, particularly in my area. I feel like if I was maybe in the DC area, it might be a little bit easier with finding someone who's more compatible or serious with what I'm looking for. But in areas like this, where it's kind of hard, or it's kind of sparse actually, to find someone who's looking for the same thing as you, especially a Black man, which is what I want. So um, it's it can be difficult, but outside of that, I'm living my best life for real. Like, this is a life I dreamed of when I was a kid. Like, just not being able to feel shunned, or fear of being humiliated or anything like that. This is a life I dreamed of. Like, I have my group of friends. Like, I go out, we go to the gay clubs. Honestly, the gay clubs are giving more than the straight clubs. That's why I like going there better. The music is better and all that. So I'm really living, I feel like, the life that I'm supposed to be living. I can't imagine like being in the same mental headspace as I was in high school, where I just felt uneasy, or inauthentic. So
Yeah,
I couldn't go back to that. I couldn't.
you're right. Okay, so circling back to gospel choir. Um, do you still go to church? Are you still religious?
I still am very religious. I still go to church. Well, there's a church in Richmond, but I haven't been in a while. But I do attend online service. I'm still religious, in the sense that I still believe in God. I still believe in the principles of Christianity. Um, Again, I never let like what the one part of the Bible or one scripture, like, that could be interpreted. I didn't let that interfere with my relationship or my view of it as a whole.
Mhm.
Even though people try to weaponize some verses in Christianity, I never let that interfere with my relationship or how I viewed it. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So do you think that, I mean, a lot of Black people in America are very religious,
Mhm.
really, no matter where they come from, whether they're Americans, Caribbean people, Africans, a lot of them are deeply religious. Do you think that straight Black people, cishet Black people are letting religious beliefs drive a wedge between them and queer Black people? Is that a big thing that's keeping us from really all uniting and standing up for each other in every situation?
Absolutely. If you want to see that, you can go to the shade room comments when they post certain things, because it's a mess in there. Like, I don't really understand how, a marginalized group of people can also marginalize another group of people who are facing multiple things like racism. Now we got to face homophobia. I don't really understand that. But I do think that religion is the biggest tool that is used in dividing, I guess, the Black community. Um, I don't understand. It's hard for me to understand how, like, certain scriptures are used as, I guess, like a weapon for real, against someone's lifestyle. Um, I don't. It's very hard for me to understand, but I do think that it's a big issue. I think that we are slowly getting better. I think that there's more avenues and expansion of your mind and your perspective. There's a lot of different trainings, a lot of different things that are being offered. I know within my job, like, there's been like a lot of trainings on like diversity and inclusion and things like that. I think our community is becoming more receptive to it, especially within the new generations that are coming after us. Like, it's getting better, especially there. Um, but some of those older ones, they're a little bit harder to get to. But I think that it's possible to, Well, if you want to look at the Bible, God says to love everybody. And if you want to look at Jesus, Jesus didn't condemn or judge anyone. So I think that if you say you're a Christian and you're following Christianity, then you should follow how Jesus behaved and how Jesus responded to situations. And it's as simple as that for me. Like, you can't pick and choose what you think is the most intolerable, insufferable sin out of everything, so I felt like when I was in church, that was like the biggest, that's the number one, like, yes, the highway to hell, like you're on there. So yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually my other question. So you feel like people hyper focus on the idea of homosexuality as a sin versus all the other sins, which are all supposed to be equal.
People, right. Um, I don't know. Actually speaking now, I don't think that that's the issue. I think now, at least when I go to church and I attend services, and from what I've seen, in most modern churches, they've come to be more inclusive of everyone. Like, it's not just homosexuals over here and pornography over here. Like, it's all the same. But growing up, I did feel like that was a hyper focused issue. Um, it was just like deplorable, absolutely deplorable. So, like I said, I think it's getting better as times are progressing, as people are becoming more accepting. But in my experience, it was number one back in the day.
Yeah. So what would you want to say to those people? What would you want to say to Black people who are using their religion as reasoning for being homophobic?
I'm kind of like what I said before. If you want to be a Christian, if you claim to be a Christian, you cannot use religion or specific scriptures as a weapon against others. I think that religion should be a unifying factor, that it should be something that brings people together. Um, I guess even looking at the issue of like abortion, I know there are some specific Christian groups that are celebrating it, like, oh, life, we're choosing life. But I don't think that at any point religion should be used to like push someone's individual agenda or purpose or opinion on a mass group of people. I know that God gives us free will to choose and make our own decisions. So if you feel so, I don't know. I just feel like let people make their own choices, their own decisions. Of course, you can have your own opinions, you can have your own beliefs, but to use something that's supposed to be unifying and something that's based on love, really, as a divisive means it's not godly. It's not a godly principle.
Yeah, for sure. What words of encouragement would you give to other gay Black men or just other queer Black people who don't feel safe enough to come out yet?
Speaking from my own experience, I would just say do it in your own time and in your own way. Um, for me, I can't imagine having like done it any other time or any other way than how it happened for me, because I faced with a lot of issues growing up, just within myself, like self-hatred. Like, I did not like being gay. I didn't want to be gay. I prayed every day to not be gay. So coming to terms with, this is who I am, this is how I think God made me. Um, just coming to really accept what it is. I can't change it. I can't. There's nothing I can do to change it. So I guess I would just offer to people um, who don't feel safe to do it in your own time and do it in your own way. Don't feel forced or pressured in any way to reveal. I don't know, to come out of your where you're at. I know for me, I never came out, or I didn't feel safe. Like I said, I had to like kind of be a chameleon. Like, if someone asked me, I would have to say no because I felt like I had to protect myself, or I just wasn't comfortable in the fact that people would look at me the same, or have these preconceived notions about who I am. So that's what I would just offer, that do it in your own time anyway, and learn to love and accept yourself for who you are, really. Because I remember like growing up, every year from like I think from middle school to high school, all the way to college, I'll be like, well, this is my opportunity to restart. This is my opportunity to not come off as gay. This is not my opportunity to not have that reputation. And I remember like in the first week, I would always fail, like always fail. I would always get the question. I'm like, I did it again. And I would be so mad. But you can't run from who you are. You really can't. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's a really good point, and I hope that those words are encouraging and helpful to somebody.
yeah.
You're doing really great. Your answers are so good.
Thanks, Danielle. Think about this stuff.
So, can you give us a book recommendation?
I was been meaning to read a book. I'm gonna read it. It's called All Boys Aren't Blue. I remember seeing an interview. It's by George M. Johnson. He's also in my fraternity and also an LGBTQIA activist. Basically, I remember in the interview he was talking about his childhood and how he had to come to terms with many of the same things I faced, like toxic masculinity, brotherhood, family, religion, and just like being happy, with being Black and gay. Um, and it's a book I feel like correlates to a lot of the experiences that I have, especially like toxic masculinity. I faced that heavily um, all throughout my childhood, I would say. This is what a man is supposed to do. This is what a man is supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to dress. This is how you're supposed to act. And I never fit into any of that. So constantly feeling like a failure, like I'm not a man, like, it was very dehumanizing, I would say. So I would recommend that book because I feel like it can relate to a lot of the Black experience. So that is a book I too will read.
Okay, great. Sean will be starting a book club. Everybody can
Yes,
join him.
please join me. I'm gonna order it for real. I'm gonna order it
Mhm.
today.
You don't even have it?
I was like, no, because I literally had to think. I was like, I want that book. I just couldn't remember the name. I was had to do some Googling, but I
Mhm.
did find it and I'm gonna read it.
Okay, I believe you.
Synopsis
I
and then
forgot to ask you at the beginning of this. What do you do? What do you do for work? What do you do for fun?
So I work in a commercial real estate company. I'm a research analyst. I work specifically with like apartments and apartment communities, construction, stuff like that. I've been here since I graduated in 2018, so almost 4 years. I also live in Richmond as well. Um, I would say what I do for fun, like being still like in the community of my fraternity and like my college friends, like they get me to go places, to try different things. Because otherwise, I am very content staying at home, watching TV and napping. That's my favorite thing ever. So I think something I would do fun. I like to go on adventures in Richmond. There's a lot of things to do here, like rivers and there's lots of cities and good food and stuff to do. So that's, I guess, the fun I do these days.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to ask that at the beginning. We just jumped right in.
Yeah, no, I was like, it's
But
okay.
okay, last question. What is your dream for your life's work?
Ooh, I really thought about that. And I didn't have an answer. I couldn't think of anything. Like, I think me still struggling to figure out if this is the right career path for me. Like, there's still so many things in my life I'm trying to put together in peace. And I feel like, I'm running out of time and it's not true. But I think overall, I would want my life's work to just be a reflection of like being free. Because in my childhood, I did not feel free. I felt very constricted, confined, like not in terms of like my parents restricting me from things, but I just didn't feel like I could really be my authentic self. So now, I'm Shawn Stuckey. Everybody knows who I am. Like not everybody knows who I am, but they know, like those who know me, like I'm this character, I'm this personality. So I think if I could just leave a mark that I was myself, like this is who I was, this is how I lived my life, this is how I chose to live. I think I would be happy with that.
That's a pretty good dream. I think that's something that a lot of people don't even think about and definitely don't achieve. So, achieving that alone is incredible and rare.
It would be lovely, very lovely to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, how do people find you on social media?
Oh yes, you can find me at waiting the number two Excel EXCEL. On Instagram, I'm really only on Instagram. I don't use anything else. So
Yeah,
here I
me
go.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, everybody go follow Shawn, go read the book with him, and be sure to just support him and send him lots of love. Thank you so much, Shawn, for doing this. This was really good, very succinct. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure, especially for people on Hilton that, don't know what I've been up to since
Yeah.
14, who knew but didn't know until now.
Right. If you didn't know, now you know.
Now you know, Pooh.
All right. Thank you so much, Shawn. I'll talk to y'all in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye.